morning. It's 11 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. One more reminder, if you have not signed in with your name and library, please go ahead and do that so that your library gets credit for attending the meeting. I don't know about any of the rest of you, but it's really beautiful here. I would rather be outside. I like all of you, but hey, I would rather be out hiking right now. Alas, that's not what's going to happen. So here we go. Okay, so during this month, there was some conversation on the CERC listserv about long in transit delay times. So on our website, in the CERC training materials, there is a document that talks about dealing with the transit list. And so the current instructions recommend that libraries would select a start date, and it's suggested like your migration date, but I mean that for some of us that could be a really long time ago. So you select your start date, and then the report recommends that you go like if today is the 25th, you would go back to January 25th. So have that 4-week period in there. So I don't know. I mean, we just got, at least I just was looking at my transit times today, even on some, I haven't made it through all of the branches, but I've made it through NRC, which is our largest branch. And unfortunately, because of holidays and snow days and you name it, there are some transit times on there that are longer than a month. That, while I'm not happy about that, I mean, I understand how that could happen. And I feel like the hubs are hopefully getting back to caught up, but I don't know that for sure. I've got some things still in transit that I'm hesitant to mark missing yet, just because of all the, like what I've said. So the question was posed, should we perhaps recommend a different length of time, a longer period of time?
You doing all right today?
Yeah. One of these boxes is seen better days. I'm assuming, I don't know if everything's all in it. Looks like.
What does anybody think?
Well, here, I think we're usually waiting 6 weeks anyway, just in case before we start marking things missing. We usually try and start searching for things a little bit earlier than that. But if they still haven't turned up, then we go ahead and start marking missing at the 6-week mark.
Is that what the proposed time is 6 weeks, changing it from 4 weeks to 6 weeks?
We don't have a proposed time.
Okay.
It's like, this is why we're talking about it. Or, I mean, the other thing is, can we take what is suggested in the transit document and use that kind of as a guideline, as opposed to this is what you really have to do? Kind of like at a minimum, do that 1 month, and then at your discretion, adjust. So that, I just wanted to have the conversation so that everybody.
And
kind of
I
was on the
have a
same page.
question. Are we talking about things in our transit, like leaving our library, or things we are waiting on, or both?
Both.
Both.
If your items either coming or going.
Or going, but it's our item we're looking at.
Right, not anybody else's.
Not anybody else's, right? Okay.
I like the idea of creating a guideline that says, start looking at this time, consider doing it, but not prior to 4 weeks, because sometimes it's so obvious that a whole tub has gone missing, you know, and you do expect that to come back. And the extra work we create by moving things into these other statuses is really sometimes not worth it. The MLC libraries also like get a list at 2 weeks and start looking at 2 weeks. And I'll let any of them chime in with when they actually mark things missing. I have a feeling we haven't marked anything missing yet from transit after migration, but.
Yeah, we have our branch managers take care of that, and 4 weeks is kind of if they get time to do it. I expect it. I'll check it monthly to make sure that things are being taken care of. So if there's something from August, of course, we need to monitor that and figure out what's going on. But ultimately, I think sometimes, like Jennifer said, we're waiting about 6 weeks anyways to get those done.
Yeah, the same here.
Yeah.
I'm with Heather in that, like, not creating more work for me or anyone else. But I also know that some people struggle with like guidelines versus like this is the exact time I should do something. However, when I think about last week, our library was closed 5 days last week. So then if your library was closed 5 days last week and you sent something, that's somehow going to exponentially, like I would expect 2 months to be a transit time for something that got sent before last week, right? Because just because it seems like every time we have a single like day holiday, even if it's not our courier day, it takes a week or two to shake out to where we're back to normal volume because it I don't have a camera to know where these books are going, to this hub, to that van, to whatever. And so I wouldn't be surprised if it takes a couple. I'm interested to see the statistics. Is it the ones that we just got today that have the transit times, the report that has the transit times? I'm interested to see what next month looks like
Mhm.
for like max transit times or average transit times.
I'm right there with you, Darcy. I've been doing tracking. I've got December and January and February just because I feel like maybe there's some improvements that we could make just as Cass County in getting things to people a day or two faster anyway. So I've been tracking it, and man, this one was bad. But I mean, like I say, I've only gone through one branch, but it was bad in the sense of way more locations that we were sending something to that took longer than what I've seen over the previous 2 months. And so I think, we're just still dealing with that holiday snow day thing.
Mhm. I think I think it's a big thing, and I feel like there are a lot of libraries who are not even on this call, right? That aren't in this meeting, who aren't even aware. There are libraries who don't even know what we're talking about even looking at that list, right? So I think making a rule would not be the way to go. I think definitely a guideline.
Presentation.
Yeah.
Well, and the good news, um, since the circulation committee has been tracking libraries that come, there's really a
A
small
lot.
percentage of libraries that have not, if they can't make it to this meeting, have not gone back and read the meeting notes or gone back and watched the video.
Right.
So that has improved vastly over time. So yay.
And I wasn't being negative about that. I meant kind of like there's some people that are just trying to figure Evergreen out and they haven't even gotten to know that they need to watch the transit list. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So to make a rule, I think would be really
Okay, so the circulation committee, I will email all of you guys so that we can come up with the preferred language statement there that we can adjust that document to where it's more like this is a guideline, start here and then adjust as necessary, I guess we would say. So however we want to. I'll send that out. I'll send you out an email later. Probably not today. I've got I have to be on the circ desk this afternoon at one of the branches, so that's going to take up my time. So, okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, great. Moving on, there have been several MEC libraries.
What's the movie? What's, I mean, it's an upstairs one. I didn't know if let them take care of it or you want it.
All right, so there have been a few libraries that have contacted the CERC committee expressing interest in allowing their patrons to be able to place multiple holds. So think like a patron who has a book club that's not sponsored by, it's not a library sponsored book club, but they are the ones who are ordering these books for a group. So I just think, that would be easier to have your patrons be able to place multiple holds, but as always, it's never quite just as simple as say, sure, let's go ahead and do that. So here are the things that would go into allowing libraries to do this. It would be an opt-in or opt-out. Every library would have the option of deciding if they wanted to allow their patrons to do this. And that is controlled by, there's two different, one is a permission and one is a setting. So if we decide to do this, Equinox would go in and add a permission to the user groups that we determine we want them to. So patrons, or, I'm thinking we probably don't need to do internet only. So some things like that. There would be some that are opted out just because it's not logical that they would do it. But they would add the create duplicate holds. They would add that permission to the user groups that we approved to have that added to, so like patrons or homeschoolers or however your permissions are set up. The second setting is a setting under just in library settings, and it's called maximum number of duplicate holds allowed. And this is where each library would be able to determine if they wanted to do it, and if they did, how many items the person could have duplicates for. So I was speaking with Equinox to kind of just figure out how that all worked, and realized, it became obvious that some of the newer libraries had set a number, maybe 10, maybe 12, maybe 15, I don't know, whatever it is. They have gone in and set a number. Many other libraries, though, either do not have something set, or they have a consortium-wide setting, which is set to 50, which to me just kind of, and that's what, when I looked, that's what Cass County had, and I'm like, oh my word, why would we want 50? So we have gone in and changed ours, just in case, if we go ahead and do this, we've changed ours. So you would want to double check that setting. And if we decide to do this, there will be some documentation that gets sent out so that it's all right before you, and you don't have to remember from this conversation. So discussion. What do libraries think of this?
This is going to enable patrons on the catalog also, right? So from their
Yes.
side and from our
Yes.
side. Okay.
Right.
I love it. Me and Heather talked about this before. I think we should do this. Absolutely. I tested it again today, and they just get, it asks, we have Aspen, and it asks you, you have this on hold. Are you sure you want to do it? I said yes. And it's like permission denied. And it's going to be beneficial, I think, for staff and for patrons.
Most of the MLC libraries that I'm aware of are also in favor of this, and I don't see the downside for adding the permission because it leaves the power in each library's hands to say whether or not they would like to do it. So I think adding the permission, as long as we're cautious and making sure that each library's setting is as they intend, should not have any unintended effects for libraries that don't wish to participate.
Do we see a potential issue with one person wanting a newish book and putting 10 holds on it to see which one comes first?
You took the words right out of my mouth. There's always going to be somebody that's going to abuse it. And so I don't know how each library would apply those, choose to dole out those permissions.
I'd be curious if if a staff person was helping a patron who said, I want 10 copies, or I mean, probably something more reasonable, I want 4 copies of Onyx Storm. Would a staff person say no to those holds in the moment?
No, I mean, I would just put it through because I figure they're gonna have to wait for each copy, and they never know if they're gonna all come together. It's just like any other thing. And if they are doing a book club, which is something a lot of people do, I mean, they're gonna need multiple copies of a book.
Yeah, and we already have that option from the staff side where we can place multiple holds. So I mean, there might be a few people that abuse it, but I think the majority of people aren't going to know, right? Unless we tell them.
We build a system for the 90% of patrons who will use it the way it's intended, and then we
Correct.
deal with the other 10% on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
My staff are really good at coming to me and saying, this might be a problem and here's why, and then we can address with that patron. So that's Poplar Bluff's view is let's build for the 90. So we'd be in favor of this.
This is Carol. Don't most libraries have, for new books like Onyx Storm, have a hold where they don't release it out to other libraries for 3 months or whatever, so they couldn't necessarily request them anyway, right?
Well, yes, because they could. Because last month it was announced that staff are authorized to override those age hold protected items. What happens is the hold is placed, but you don't get your hold until that age protection time has expired. So you can go ahead and put that hold on there, but it's still not going to come to you until after that.
And really, aren't we talking more about multiple copies of Gone with the Wind or something? We're not really talking about new things. The only time I've had to deal with this at all is a teacher that needed 28 copies of something. And I went in with her and helped her get those from all of your libraries, and praying the whole time that they come at a reasonable amount of time, where the class could use them. She was luckily 2 months out from needing them. So that kind of was helpful, but I love the idea.
Okay, from what I'm hearing, and if somebody has concerns and they have not spoken up yet, would you please do that? What I'm hearing is we think it would be a good idea to go ahead and add the permission, and then it would be on each library to determine how many or if they wanted to allow their patrons to take advantage of this new permission. Okay, so my one other question is, what patron groups or are there patron groups that we do not want to apply this new permission to? So, I mean, the ones that came to my mind are my probationary patrons, internet only, and possibly minors. We don't use minors, but I don't know what everybody thinks about some of those groups.
I have a question. Which, by the way, I was playing devil's advocate, like I am for this. But so when I think of our probationary patrons, for the first month, they can only get 2 items at a time. So even if they did place all those holds, they couldn't check them out. But what if like a week before their probationary period was up, they're like, okay, I'm ready to get my book club started. Eh, And but everybody uses their those patron types in a different way. Do you guys also limit checkouts with probationary?
Yes.
Okay.
We just do on their first checkout.
We limit 3 items.
I don't think we have probationary, but I'll ask the expert who's here with me, Courtney.
We do not.
So
Also, we're
Yeah.
making I guess, Rhonda, I'm asking, would we have to make this decision for these libraries, or could they say probate, I mean, number one, you get the choice whether you want to allow multiple holds to be even placed, and number two, does the library have control over this? Because I'm going to say if everybody says probationary, yes, fine. I don't have probationary patrons. I don't care at all. But I don't, I think that is just getting down to some sort of decision-making process that we should avoid if we can avoid it,
As far as I know, I am like 95% sure that it's a system-wide, you put the permission in and then it's there. Now whether you choose to use it by setting your library setting to where your patrons can use it, that is what is discretionary. But once it's put on a user group, it's on for everybody in that user group.
Spokane Library doesn't have we used to, but we don't. But I with this, I have a lot of teachers that put multiple holds on, but I do it for them. The thing is that I see a problem. They think that if for just the time wise to get the books in, if you're talking about you have 1 day or 2 days, or Cass Kennedy, you said probation for 2 months, that the patron can't get some of those books. My thought was just communicating that to the patron, saying, hey, those books will, it will take time to get some of those books in, and you have to have time plan ahead of time too. And that's what I deal with every day with my teachers. You can't tell me that you need 10 books tomorrow.
Well, you can tell me that, but I'm not going to be able to produce
Right.
for you.
Right.
Okay, so besides internet only, which obviously is not dealing with multiple copies of an item, is there any other permission group that we would want to exclude?
We have student, that's a semester. I don't think I would want them to use it. Oh, wait, never mind. They're all patrons, right? They're all patrons, but student, is that what you mean? I feel like that would be one that I would not want somebody getting 30 copies of something and then school being over and them going back to Minnesota or wherever.
I also think temporary should not have this access as well.
Gary, my question for you is, can't that student come in and check out as many things as they can carry out of the place and possibly never bring it back?
Yeah, pretty much, but it's never happened ever. And we only have 12 in the system as students. I'm not really worried about it, but I feel like I'd block it. I don't know. Yes, they are not limited in what they can take out.
Homebound patrons wouldn't need it, I don't believe.
That's true too, because usually that's going to be like through the mail
Right.
type of situation, or we're driving things to them.
I mean, I guess that's okay, because like our home services people will call the librarian if they wanted to do that, but we do have you know, a couple people in residential facilities that run book groups for the facility, and they'll borrow multiple copies. So I would say,
Are they on the homebound
Yeah.
profile?
yeah,
I agree with that. I do homebound as well. And that would affect homebound for me. Because they sometimes the facilitator in the nursing homes does that. That's just my opinion.
Okay. So that takes us down to temporary and student. Going once, going twice.
I mean, I would like probationary, but I guess it doesn't matter since there's a limit when they're placed in that group anyways. So they won't be able to place 10 copies on hold since it's 3 that they can check out. We also have reciprocal borrowers. That's a little tricky with us, but I don't want to limit. I'm sure a lot of us have reciprocal borrowers and I don't want to go that route.
Yeah, that's a lot of our teachers here in
Yeah.
this area, so.
Yeah.
It seems like we should try it with as many permissions as possible, and then if it becomes a problem, let's talk about it. I mean, even Terry, your comment about the students, I mean, I totally get it. They could check out, you know, but they could check out, this does not limit what they can check out. It's only putting holds on multiple copies of the same book. I mean, I just can't fathom why that would be something they would do as opposed to coming in and clearing you out.
Right. And the other thing on that I just thought about is, you know, putting the holds on in April and school's out May 10th, and that's when the holds come. So they've wasted a lot of transit time getting books brought here that they ended up not being able to use. That's a possibility. Can't even imagine why in the world a student would do this, but I feel like I should block them. That's all.
I feel like it makes sense for students to have this in case they're like, especially like college kids, like in a group that they might need the same book for, like group projects and stuff like that.
I mean, I've been here 18 years and not once has any student come in and asked for multiple copies of the same title. Now, students, as far as like in high school, that's more likely, but they're not students anyway. They're under another category. But our college kids, no. Multiple, you know, lots of books on the same subject, but not the same book. But yeah, I see what you're thinking though. I mean, that's definitely something to think about.
Terry, would you be willing for us to go in with student included, and then if it became
totally. I don't care. There's,
problem?
like I said, we only have 12. It's not gonna impact me. I'm gonna, you know, pay attention to it.
Is there not any possibility that Equinox can make this where libraries get to choose? I'm just scared. I'm thinking about future. Like if we decide to add, we only have 4 permission groups, but if we decide to add student or temporary back, I feel like we all have different rules when it pertains to these groups. So is there not a way that Equinox, I'm sure you don't know right off the bat, that they can make it personal?
My understanding is that to do that, we'd all have to be using different patron permission groups. And since they're all shared,
Okay.
that's why it has to be shared.
I think I might be misunderstanding how the thing works. I thought you were saying that you turn on the permission for patron group, you know, student. And then each library can look at patron group student and choose how many multiples they can get. If so,
not
then,
patron group, just as it would just be across the board. You couldn't say, okay, my regular patrons could get 10 things, but my students could only get 4.
okay.
All
right. Now I see. Okay, thanks.
Right. So we're turning this permission on per library as far as multiple holds, right? But permission group, that's, you know, that's a different story. But you as a library can just decide, I don't want my patrons to have this ability.
Right.
Any of them, not per group, right? Not per
Correct.
patron group. Okay.
It's a unilateral decision across all permission groups. All right, so internet only and temporary, I think is what we're down to, this would be something that I would, before we did it, I would be talking to Equinox to just double check that we're not, that everything that we've said is indeed, I think we've done that checking, but before we go changing big things, I'll probably check one more time. See if they have any other cautions, and if they don't, we will probably do it fairly quickly. Before we would do it, though, we would send out to each library instructions on how to make sure you can set your number to what your library in particular wants. Okay.
Rhonda, I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, so I was thinking about what Macy said, and would you know how like I'm the circulation manager, but I'm also the cataloger, right? So I have my regular permissions, and then I can have a secondary patron group or a secondary permission group. So would it be possible to give all permission groups this the ability to put multiple holds, but then, and I know we tried to whittle these down, but if we created a patron group for the purpose of like, hey, if there's somebody we don't want to have it because they're clearly abusing it, we can tack on this secondary permission group, and then now they can't do that. Whereas, or like maybe the 12 students, she could tack on anybody who has a student, she could tack on a secondary permission group that didn't allow that.
From my understanding, I don't think secondary groups affect circulation.
Okay,
Yeah, I
just
think it's just for statistics. I
okay.
would love for it to
That would be
affect
great.
circulation. That'd be great.
I do think though that if you wanted to remove the permission for just one or two patrons, you could edit that patron's permissions individually. I mean, that would not be a widespread solution, but if you had a problem patron, I think you'd be able to edit their individual permissions to say they can't do it.
And even
I mean,
if you couldn't, probably Equinox could. I mean, I think I would rather err on the side of let's make it available to as many people as we can make it available to. And then if we have issues, we'll have to dial it back, dial it back, dial it back. But I don't really imagine, I mean, my hope is that we're not going to have a lot of issues with this, and that it's going to be a great service to the patrons who would take advantage of this. Okay, any other questions, comments? So I will be working on this. And like I say, something will be sent out before it would be implemented so that your library would have time to adjust the number from 0 to however many you wanted. Just remember, many of you, if you don't have a setting, it will default to the ME setting, which is 50. So not putting a number in is going to leave you at 50. So, okay, going on tomorrow or tonight, I guess is when it actually happens. Tonight, we're going to leave the library at 3.11, and tomorrow morning we're going to come back in at 3.13. So hopefully you guys have had a chance to really, for CIRC, there's not that much changing. There's more for cataloging and reports that have changed, but the test server is up. And so if you have not played with it and you don't want to do things in real time to where you can, have to remember, oh, I put that on hold, now I need to take it off hold, those kinds of things. Get into that test server and play away. I'm interested to see the reports once it will actually run a report. So we'll see how that goes, I guess. All right.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think I thought it was overnight Wednesday night into Thursday and that we came in on Thursday.
Yes.
Oh gosh, thank you.
Yeah, the 20, what is today? Yes, it's the 26th, the evening of the 26th to the 27th. Sorry. I've lost a day somewhere, or I've gained a day or whatever. All right, moving on. There is the ongoing conversation about age hold protection. And I just really want to encourage those libraries who are fearful of lowering the amount of time on their age protection. You don't have to jump in whole hog, but pick some items, pick an item or two and test it to see how it goes if you lower that number. Cass County has done this over the last couple of months that the conversation was going on, and we have lowered our time period on most things. Sure, there's a few things that there's going to be a huge wait list. We're not saying that don't use a 6-month age protection, but use 6-month age protection selectively, I guess would be what I would encourage you, instead of just putting a blanket 6 months or even 3 months on there. Consider what is the most likely projected need for your library. And because it's very frustrating when you want to put a hold on those things and they're available, but they're on hold protection and there's no hold, there's nobody waiting for them. And so it's causing a patron at another library to have to wait. So just consider, if you test it and see. You can do 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. There will also be a session by Galen from Equinox at the users conference. Is this, something that we want to really overhaul? So if you're coming to that users conference, Galen is going to be doing a session on that. I'm interested to see what he has to say. So that's just my little blurb. Go ahead and dip your toe in, see, you don't have to do everything, but test it and see how it goes.
I was gonna, sorry, I feel like I'm always
okay.
talking, but I've been testing it as well, even though I was one of the staunch, like when we started, like what, 12 years ago, I was like 6 months old. But gosh, in the last 10 years, so many things have changed as far as, like, even when I put our stuff out, there used to be like, I don't know how many holds on. And that book would be occupied for 6 months. And now I put it on and it's ready to go on the new shelf. And I'm like, if it's just going to go on the shelf, why doesn't somebody have it? And then I think, well, gosh, if other libraries do that and we want their stuff, that, it's kind of, because I just wanted to say that I was sort of a, like, no, but I've been doing like 3 months, 1 month, and none, depending on, the item, whether it's new to us or replacement or whatever. And I haven't noticed any difference. But then of course we're gonna get down to talking about transit times again, but I think it's been going good, and I'm glad that you guys brought it up.
Darcy, I just want to thank you for pointing out how much things have changed. I mean, for all of us, libraries pre-Evergreen, now, yesterday, we went through COVID. I mean, I don't want any books sitting on my shelf that could be out that somebody wants, but I think with the frustration for age hold protection, it's like, I understand you want to have a bestseller that's brand new on your shelf, but we're all going to buy that bestseller. So you know what? That's not denying my patron, but if you're the library that bought one audiobook copy of something that, may sit on your shelf for 6 months and never get checked out, but my one patron wants it, that just seems so against what libraries are about, you know? Put those bestsellers on age hold protection. They'll be sitting there for your people if they walk in, whatever. But if you buy something that's an odd one type thing, but it's just sitting on your shelf and nobody in your community wants it, that's the stuff that seems just a crazy idea to put an age hold protection on. It just doesn't make any sense at all.
Right. And when I think about too, like my husband and I, we love to go to libraries and browse, but we also will go to a bookstore, see a brand new book, pull out our phone and just put it on hold on the Evergreen app. We're not going to the new books at the library that I work at to just browse. We know what's out there and it's that easy to just put it on hold. I mean, things have changed more. People, coming into the library to just look and see what's available. And yeah, we still have an age group that does that. Well, not necessarily an age group, but it's definitely changed the way being able to just put stuff on hold on your phone while you're standing in a bookstore.
Yeah, I've got certain genres that I buy just because I should buy them, but I know they're not going to get read here. And those are the 1 month hold protection. I don't have a whole lot of nonfiction readers, but I feel like we should have something on the nonfiction shelves. So yeah, those are the ones that I've in science fiction. I don't have a whole lot of science fiction readers. So when I get those, just because I feel like I should, those are the 1 month hold protections for us.
Yeah, mine are kind of case by case sometimes as well, or genre by genre. But since we've been discussing this and testing, I would honestly love to see that 6 month disappear.
I
But I know
I agree with Darcy on that. Go to 1, 2, and 4.
Well, and I think we might, at the users conference, Galen is probably going to have good insights for us on that. And so that might inform the conversation and maybe the direction that we go, even, from here. But anyway, go ahead, dip your toe in, lower something and see what happens. You might be pleasantly surprised. So we've mentioned briefly the users conference. As of yesterday, the links that I put in worked, but I don't know if those are time sensitive or not. It was things that Steve sent to me, for the schedule and booking rooms, those kinds of things. I'm not 100% sure of that, but the good news if you just go to moevergreenlibraries.org on that very first page, Ron has posted links to the schedule, I think. I don't know about. Ron, did you do rooms too, or is that?
I think it is just the general link to the everything.
Okay. So if my links don't work, go to the website, and on that first page, you should be able to get the information you need. All right. Courier labels have not changed. And so that is the list that I have. Is there anything else that somebody would like to discuss?
Rhonda, can I do a quick commercial for Hopeless Holds?
Of course.
Okay, so Hopeless Holds are, your patron put a book on hold on a record where there are only maybe 2 copies that are ever going to be available, and they're both marked lost. So that hold is going nowhere at all. So we're supposed to be periodically checking that Hopeless Holds list to find those holds, tell the patron they're never going to get it. But what I'm finding is a lot of these holds, we could merge records and suddenly put that Hopeless Hold onto a merged record with multiple copies. Sometimes you can move it to a different edition. Maybe the patron put on for the 2nd edition and they'd be just as happy with the 3rd. I found one where the patron had put the hold on the regular print edition that only had 2 lost copies. Once we moved that to the large print edition where there were 9 copies, that hold filled. So just, you under the administration tab, local administration, and hopeless holds, and just kind of look to see what books your library has that are hopeless, and see if you can bring a little hope to their lives.
I was looking at ours yesterday, so I've got a couple of people that I'm waiting to call. I just couldn't get a hold of them. Do you want us to really try and look for this further afield? And see what they say. Sometimes, with being right here in Kansas City, I can get things pretty easy from Mid-Continent or Kansas City and get things pretty quick. So anyway, change them to a different bib record if you can. But it's a conversation that we should be having with our patrons, just that the hold doesn't sit there for years. And they're wondering why they haven't got their hold.
And what I'm seeing too is there are libraries who are parking books there that they've put on hold waiting to come back. So they've done a lot of copy holds. It feels like a good third of the hopeless holds list is what we're using administratively. And I'm wondering if people that are placing those holds are going back to look to see, why did I place that hold? And is it still necessary?
Well, in relation to that, I know I get emails all the time from the cataloging listserv, like, hey, this book is a regular print and it looks like it's on a large print record. Can you verify the page numbers or whatever? And we go and we pull it off the shelf, and oh, it turns out we gotta move it or merge it or something like that. But one of those is like, oh, my copy is checked out, so I'm gonna put it on hold for the in-house account. So then at what point do we decide, I mean, I don't know, decide that we're not going to hold it for the in-house account anymore to fix it in the catalog, which I guess that would be like deleting it maybe, but.
I mean, after a while, if it's out to a patron and you're putting it on hold, waiting for that patron to bring it back and they never do, then it kind of gets hopeless where you either have to, chase down that patron or just cut your losses and mark the book as lost.
Anything else? All right, I don't hear anything. So hope you have a wonderful day and maybe get outside for a little bit. But look for information coming from me so that you can make sure your settings are correct on this duplicate hold thing. And hopefully I'll see some of you in March at the users conference. So have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.